Yeah, let's talk about miniaturizing real estate because I honestly don't know much about it. I think it's fascinating. I know you talk about miniaturizing homes, small homes, mailboxes, pet hotels. So just tell me a little bit more about it.
It's so fun. So basically, I think we've all realized this, but making money is just a game, right? It's just a game. And you just try to find what sport you're better at or have some unique advantage. If I'm 5'2", I'm probably not playing basketball. If I'm 6'4", maybe I am. And so in the world that I like to play in, I go and find weird people that make money doing things I would never think about, that I think they're smart, but I don't think they're geniuses. So I could probably replicate it. So I have this friend, Lisa Song Sutton, and I think I just put a tweet on this. So if anybody wants to see it, they can see the full breakdown. But essentially, I was like, Lisa, what are you up to lately? She's always got weird deals going on. She's in real estate. She goes, you know what? I just bought a postal service company. And I was like, can you explain that to me? She's like, you go to UPS or FedEx and you like send out your mail, right? And I was like, oh, I guess maybe there's money in shipping. That could make sense. A lot of Amazon going on. She's like, wrong. It's not where the money is. The money is actually, and think about it like storage units. Lots of people invest in storage units now, but miniaturize it into PO boxes. And she's like, so each PO box, I charge somebody $20 to $30 a month to use this PO box. And since we're all now on the internet and remote, we maybe don't want, weird people on the internet to know where we live. So we send it to a post office box. And so she's like, so I have now 1,000 post office boxes in one tiny thing. I mean, size of my office, it's so small. And she's like, and I make, what were the exact numbers? She makes $22,000 a month in tiny storage units off of this deal. And the cool part is you don't want to do a franchise with UPS and FedEx because they only let you to have 300 mailboxes. This one allows you to have 1,000.
And how much labor does
her
that
one play.
require? How much labor does a deal with that require? Is she checking the PO boxes all the time?
Well, with 22K in profit, you can actually have a nice little operator in there. We're talking about a couple $100K a month. So she actually hired one of her friends who was a cocktail waitress and tired of cocktail waitressing on the Vegas Strip. I can't imagine why anybody would get tired of that. And so she basically put her in instead and said, hey, why don't you take off the stilettos and, you can come and run the store. And basically we can hire somebody to be the daily, person in front of the store, but you can manage it and we can open a couple different locations. And so now Lisa sometimes parades around there doing different things, but for the most part, she's out of the business. And if you think about it, it's the same thing we've done in real estate historically forever. First we had well, not first, but we've had a lot of really big buildings, like industrial scale business buildings. You used to only be able to buy if you were, titans of industry. Now some normal people can buy it. Then we went a little bit smaller and it was like commercial buildings, like, oh, you could only buy those if you were a titan of industry. Then it was like strip malls, and then that got commercialized. And then we went down to multifamily units, like apartment buildings, et cetera. And then we went to single family houses. And then we went to storage units. And then maybe we went to boat or RV parking, which I've invested in some of those. And then it's like, how else could you take it smaller? So I thought mailbox money was a cool one. I also talked about one that's glamping related and one that is for tiny pets. We could talk about either of those.
Why don't we go through both of those? Because I think this is a fascinating concept, right? And you're totally right when it makes sense from going down to large commercial buildings all the way down the spectrum. But maybe let's start with glamping. Are these just like really nice campers that you're renting out to people?
So that's where I thought the play was. I thought it was like hipsters need to be in nature. And so we want to get some vitamin D and we could sell them an experience in a glorified tent for a couple $100 a night. But the play that I thought was even more interesting is another girlfriend of mine, Kate Hancock. I asked her what she's up to lately. I just like to ask my rich friends, like, what are you doing? And then maybe I could figure out how to do something similar. And so she bought some land in Joshua Tree, she told me, which is located in California. And at this point, there's going to be a bunch of people that are like, this is the problem. Stay out of the national parks, but like pick any national park surrounding area. She bought in Joshua Tree, and she bought for about $15,000, $10,000 to $15,000, 3 to 4 acres. And first of all, I thought that sounded ridiculous. I'm like, you can get land near a national park for that cheap? Yes, you totally can. Go check on Zillow and Redfin. I was dubious too. So she bought this land, and then all she did is on each parcel of land, you can do something on a site called Hip Camp. That also now exists on Airbnb, where you list camping sites. No toilets, no tents, no airstreams. People come and they rent the ability to camp on the land from you. In each acre, you can have 7 to 8 tents. So she took $15,000, let's call it $10,000 to make the math easy. And she makes about $1,500 a month on 1 acre of land because she has 6 to 8 campsites that are reserved about 70% of the time. which is wild.
So talk to me about the pet hotels.
Yeah. So actually, the second tier pet market is fascinating, which I didn't even know what this was until we have a guy in our deal group who just was looking at buying pet hotels, sort of interesting post-pandemic. A bunch of them shut down because they were not deemed essential, right, during the pandemic. And so he was like, I think I could buy a couple at a discount. Let's look at the economics. So we were running through the deal with him, and the deal itself was interesting. These things make a lot of money, and for the most part, they're like starting to get resold out in cities again because we're traveling. But the part that fascinated me is when I think of a pet hotel, I think of dogs and cats, right? That like seems reasonable. And he said their largest growing segment is the second tier pet market, which apparently includes things like ferrets and rabbits and parrots and birds of varying type. And I thought about it. I'm like, wow, for dogs, you maybe need to have a little bit of room. For cats, you need to have less. But then, like, how tiny would a hotel be if all you needed it for was for rabbits and ferrets? And so he has a segment of his business that I swear to you is literally, again, probably the size of this room, and you could fit like, I don't know, 42 bajillion ferrets in here. And so the multiples are really interesting. And he bought this business, I think he's looking to close the deal right about $800K for the real estate, the land, but he is actually able to double the profits of the business by only targeting the second tier market. And so like you guys out there might be thinking, okay, this is interesting, but like, I don't want to be a ferret babysitter. Totally reasonable. But I think the main point here is really, how could you look for these weird opportunities in the market that nobody's talking about that are boring businesses where you don't have to be the next creator of the next DAO or NFT or whatever. And the one thing I like about it is, yes, dabble in that space, but also make sure that you have something that people still want if the whole internet hype doesn't maybe continue at the same level than it does. And that's sort of my plea for our generation.